I mean, there's no sense beating around the bush. Something's been posted, it's already been announced, but finally doing an open show.
I freaking called it. Coach Greg, in today's video, I freaking called it. I said Cbum can't retire.
This is gonna be my last time up on the stage.
Cbum can't retire. You were thinking I was going to say it's time to retire, but no, Cbum can't retire. And so I travel across the world, going to China and Japan, and all hell breaks loose in the fitness industry. I can't take a day off. And so we now have Cbum coming out of retirement to compete in open men's bodybuilding. And so Nick's Strength and Power, he's got to be having a field day with this. He's been praying for this for the last 6 years. Greg is going to have a field trip with this one. Coach Greg video incoming. Title, Cbum switching to open. Gregging my Doucette. Gregging Doucette harder than last time. He was right. Greg never missed. Popping a GO2 max in anticipation. He called it though.
But definitely the last 3 years I've been looking at shows post Olympia, wanting to jump in them and do them, and this is my last opportunity to ever do it. So I'm like, I'm in shape. It's 3 weeks till the Prague show. Why not do it?
And so Cbum's retirement, it lasted all of 2 weeks, and in under 3 weeks from now, he's going to be competing on stage at the open class Prague bodybuilding competition against open class bodybuilders. And so many people are going to be saying, why would you do this? Why wouldn't he? He's retired from bodybuilding. He's not even 30. Life, it can get pretty boring unless you take on challenges. And what challenge does Chris enjoy the most? Competing in bodybuilding.
It's kind of like a romantic ending to my competitive stage career, because I started in open bodybuilding when I was a junior, younger. I was in open bodybuilding. I had no expectations. I was just competing for the love of bodybuilding.
And remember, he started his career as an open class bodybuilder, and so why not end it as one? Y'all said I had a decent physique and should try competing. So I figured I'd give it a shot. One more run just for fun, giving the people what they want. 3 weeks out, Elves Prague Pro official open bodybuilding. I started my competing career in open bodybuilding with no expectations, just for the love of the sport. So why not finish it in the same fashion? More info in my latest YouTube video. And so his wife, the mother of his child, Courtney King writes, Babe is crazy with a whole lot of Y's. LOL. But we all support you one more just for fun. And a lot of emojis, and if I'm reading between the lines, I'm reading, she supports one more show. After all, he's already shredded. It's not as if he has to go through a massive contest prep diet. He's already ready. And so she's saying, look, I love you, I support you, but you're doing it one time. I don't believe that Chris Bumstead is going to enter this competition and then try to win it, and then try to compete at the Olympia next year. And then after that, you're gonna do one men's physique show too, right? Funny thing is he easily could do that. Literally, Cbum could stop training, stop working out, go natural, and compete in men's physique. But why would he want to? People in general have a hard time moving down. They want to get better. And so in competing in the open class, Chris now has no weight category that he has to get down to. He can compete at exactly the weight that he wants to. And so many people are going to speculate. How much bigger is he going to get? Is he going to compete 10 or 20 pounds bigger? Well, here's the thing. He doesn't have the time. Yes, he can of course up the trendos. He can add in everything, including the kitchen sink. But there's no way he's going to set foot on stage more than 10 pounds bigger than he was at the classic physique Mr. Olympia. And why is that? Well, because he still has to be shredded. Yes, he can carb up harder, he can come in fuller, and he can put on a little bit of muscle, but it's very difficult to put on a lot of muscle when you're already at 4% body fat. If he had an off season and could go on hella gear, do perhaps double or triple the doses that he was doing, he could in fact put on a lot of muscle, but he doesn't have the time. Now, let's assume that when he retired, he knew he was going to do this competition. That would have gave him 5 weeks of competition prep time in order to put on as much muscle as possible. In 5 weeks, when you're already shredded, it's hard to put on muscle. You're not eating a ton of extra calories, perhaps a little bit more, but you can't simply just go on a bulk. He can't get fat. It's still called bodybuilding, and last I checked, bodybuilding awards guys who are shredded. And so if he competes in the competition and looks soft, he's not gonna place any better.
If I can get on stage at like 250 and just be full of the fucking house, maybe sacrifice a little bit of conditioning, a little bit of dryness, it'll be fun.
And so he still wants to compete with close to the same conditioning, but of course with a lot more muscle size if possible. And so how do I think he's going to do in this competition? My personal opinion is Cbum would even beat Sean Clarida when he was at his best. I do believe that Cbum is close to as good as Regan Grimes if they were to compete in open. Some people feel that Cbum could be a top 3 competitor in the Mr. Olympia. Well, maybe if he put on 20 or 30 pounds of muscle, but with his current size, or let's add on even 10 pounds more muscle, he's still not big enough. Now, many are going to argue that he should be the open class Mr. Olympia. Many people even think that he's the Mr. Olympia. They don't realize there are several different weight categories, there are different divisions, and so when they say, name the Mr. Olympia champion, they name Cbum. Cbum has over 25 million followers on Instagram, and so he has more followers than practically every other open class competitor put together. But just because he's more popular, and just because he perhaps has a more aesthetic or ideal physique for the average man, doesn't mean he's the best bodybuilder in the world. And so how will he actually be doing in this competition? Well, I do believe he's going to beat Sean Clarida, but there's no chance in Turk that he's going to beat out Martin Fitzwater. Martin is a way better bodybuilder than Cbum. And so if you're thinking Cbum already would be placing in the top 3 Mr. Olympia, you have no idea what you're talking about. They even asked Kevin Levrone what place would Cbum get at the Mr. Olympia Championship. His response was he would win. Not if he put on 30 pounds of muscle, he would win right now. And he's basing that on what the people would want, what the sport should in fact reward. Should they just reward the bigger the better, or should they not reward the best? And so remember, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Various people are going to see a competition and say, Cbum, he's the winner. Others are going to see Martin Fitzwater and say, well, bro is so much bigger, he should win. But I don't like his shape as much as Cbum, and so Cbum's the champion. Others are going to see Sean Clarida and say, well, for being that short and having that much muscle, he should be the victor. But listen, bodybuilding has always been judged a certain way. There are certain criteria they're looking for, and they're not going to change it just because Cbum is entering the competition. Not saying that's the correct thing to do, but I'm just stating the facts. And the facts are that Cbum is not actually built like a bodybuilder. In comparison, second place competitor at the Mr. Olympia, Mike Sommerfeld, is more of a bodybuilder than Cbum. When I compare both of their physiques, if they were in a proper bodybuilding competition, I do believe that Mike Sommerfeld would in fact edge out even Cbum. And so Mike Sommerfeld against Cbum, against Martin Fitzwater, against Sean Clarida, if they were competing in 3 weeks from now, all at their best, I do believe that Martin Fitzwater would place first, that Mike Sommerfeld would place second, that Cbum would place third, and that Sean Clarida would place fourth. But what about current 212 Olympia champion, Keon Pearson? I do believe that Keon Pearson would beat both Cbum and Mike Sommerfeld. The guy has an extremely tiny waist, wide shoulders, impressive thighs, hamstrings, glutes, everything. And if you saw him flex the leg, an impressive looking coxilla. You know what I'm talking about, that extra muscle on his leg that looked like you know what I'm talking about. But remember, that is the current list as it stands right now. Will other people be jumping into the open category just for the shot at competing against Cbum? And so some people are being very critical of Cbum. For example, Nick Trilogy from Bodybuilding and BS, he's saying, why does he compete in such an easy show? If you're going to jump into the open class, why not compete and make it a challenge? Well, here's the thing. Cbum is in shape right now. Why would he want to wait until a larger show presents itself, for example, the Arnold Classic or the New York Pro, before competing as an open class competitor? It's too far away. He doesn't have to diet. He simply has to keep doing what he's doing and show up in shape, and he's going to do great. And so does it really matter? Yeah, it's not the Olympia. Does anyone actually think that he would have had a chance at beating out Samson Dota, or perhaps Hadi Chopin or Derek Lunsford, the top 3 at this year's Mr. Olympia? I certainly would hope that no one thinks that Cbum could actually beat the top 3 at the Mr. Olympia right now. And so do we not have the next best competitor doing this right now? Do we not have Martin Fitzwater, who placed 4th at the Olympia, competing against Cbum? And so if Martin Fitzwater beats Cbum, it's easy to see that the top 3 would have also beat Cbum. Now, unless Martin Fitzwater shows up without the proper tan, perhaps Mike Israetel is in charge of his prep and he shows up with no tan, then of course Cbum will be the victor. But shy of showing up with the improper tan, there's no way Cbum is going to win this competition. And so unfortunately, despite the fact that Cbum is coming out of retirement, Nick Walker will never get the chance to compete against Cbum on stage. Imagine if Nick Walker hadn't chickened out of his previous competition. Imagine he'd done the Olympia. He could then have tried to re-qualify for the Olympia by actually coming in shape at the Prague Pro. Think of it. He wasn't in shape for the Olympia. He had 5 extra weeks of diet. He could be competing against Cbum and perhaps even beating him. But no, he pulled out and it wasn't even all over stomach. And so he needs to stop gregging his Doucette and start getting into the gym. And so hopefully we'll see other big name pros throwing their hats into the mix and the opportunity to compete and beat Cbum. And so unless we see some other top 10 Mr. Olympia competitors compete in this competition, perhaps Cbum could place as high as 2nd. And so a guy like Akeem Williams would perhaps be able to give Cbum a run for his money. Cbum has the exquisite shape, the balance, the symmetry, the conditioning. Akeem Williams clearly edges him out in size, and so it's a pick'em. Who is better, Akeem Williams or Cbum? My personal opinion is that Cbum is a top 10 open class Mr. Olympia competitor, even without putting on that much size. Cbum is 6'1¼ and weighs approximately 242 pounds. For an open class competitor of that height, he doesn't have as much size as a guy like Samson Dota. But he has one of the best shapes in the world, and he does in fact know how to pose. And so in certain poses, for example, a side chest, he's going to look exquisite. Thigh and abdominal with the small waist, he's going to look impressive. However, when he turns to the rear, some of these guys, they're going to expose him. Cbum does not have the largest back in the world, nor does he have impressive hamstrings. His quads, the appearance of the thighs, they're not going to be as large as some of his other components. And clearly, the biceps are not up to par with the rest of his physique. But the wide shoulders, the small waist, the front lat spread, he's there. It's extremely impressive, and so he gives the illusion of having far more size than he actually has. Another competitor standing 265 pounds at the same height would not appear to have as much muscle as Cbum does because of his shape. And so Cbum posts to YouTube, oiled up for Prague Open Bodybuilding. Over 300,000 views in 5 hours, and that means there's probably over 500,000 views. And so remember, the first several hours, it usually undershoots by approximately 50%. Giving the fans what they want when he didn't have to. Truly a man of his people, love you bro, looked up to you as a bodybuilder and father figure too. He's already the GOAT. It's cemented. He then comes out of retirement to compete and give the fans what they want. They get to see him one last time against larger competitors than himself, open class bodybuilders. This is going to be a huge story. The moment we've all been waiting for. We've desperately wanted to see Cbum compete as an open class Mr. Olympia. And no one more so than Nick's strength and power. My personal opinion was I was hoping all this time to see Cbum competing shortly after or just before the Olympia. Why not compete when you're already ready against open class bodybuilders? And could he in fact win the competition? Now, even if he loses, of which of course he's going to lose, he can't beat Martin Fitzwater. I do believe that if he wanted to, they would give him a special invite to compete at next year's Open Mr. Olympia.
Super pumped about this. Like I said, a romantic ending to my bodybuilding career. And then I promise I'm actually retired. So don't get your hopes up. Or maybe if I win, I'll do the Open Olympia next year. Well, I don't know. Just kidding. I'm retired. Maybe not. I don't know. But we'll see.
He, after all, is a 6-time Olympia champion, and he's qualified for life to compete at the Mr. Olympia. Although it would be expected he would compete in classic physique, would they not allow him to compete in open? I certainly think so. I do believe if anyone of all the competitors deserves a bye into the competition, it's not going to be Nick Walker. It's going to be Cbum. Nick Walker, oh, I was injured. My prep didn't go so well. I ate too many cookies. I had Matt Jensen as my coach. They're not going to care. I'm going to say, oh yeah, you got the wrong coach. You ate too many cookies. You hurt your hamstring. We feel bad for you. You get an open invitation. No, but when it's Cbum, 6-time Mr. Olympia champion, the eyeballs he'll bring to the competition, imagine the competition with Cbum in it. Cbum competes in open. That's the storyline, that's the heading, that is what people want to see at next year's Mr. Olympia. I certainly bet they would be willing to pay millions of dollars for Cbum to compete one more time in the open. Is he going to do it? Maybe. It's certainly possible. I don't think Courtney King would approve of this, but remember, she's being supportive right now. But if Cbum wants to compete, remember what it's going to do to his health. As of right now, he's already prepped for the show. He's so close. It's not a big deal. It's only a few more weeks. But if he were to start taking and blasting open class bodybuilder doses, taking everything including the kitchen sink, this would not be good for his health. And so despite the fact that I, as well as you, I'm certain you would all want to see this, for Chris Bumstead's sake, for the sake of his health, I don't want him to do it. I would prefer see Cbum retire, not compete after this competition, and do it for his health. Remember, he has nothing to prove, and I get it, he loves the challenge. But what good is taking on a challenge if you're shortening your life in the process? Now remember, Cbum, it's not too late. You've got over 2 weeks before the competition. Be sure to pick up Turkesterone and GO2 Max. The difference can be astounding. People are coming out of the woodworks, they're trying it, they're seeing the results, they know it's not a scam, it's not snake oil, and it's been tested by third-party testers talking about it. We have tested HCLT's Turkesterone. It has real Ajuga turkesterica in it that is actual turkesterone in, albeit a low amount at 15 milligrams per dose. Now remember, it's not a low amount. 15 milligrams of Halo, that's a lot. And so when you take 3 capsules of turkesterone, that's 45 milligrams. And so any dose is a lot or a little depending on what it is. A little bit of fentanyl literally will kill you. And so it's not a little, it's a lot. I think this may honestly be the first real turkesterone containing supplement on the market. They are the only company that actually listened during the whole turkesterone debacle and changed their ways, which resulted in a proper product that even I can stand behind. And so there you have it, guys. The people who outed the whole turkesterone debacle years ago, they defend my product. HCLT turkesterone, not the other competitors. I didn't hear Gorilla Mode. I didn't hear any other competitor. I heard HCLT turkesterone. And so if you want the real turkesterone from Uzbekistan, you know where to get it. Code Greg, 15% off. And if you don't believe it, money back guarantee. And so what do you have to lose? Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm, like the video if you liked it. Let me know in the comment section, where is Cbum going to finish? Is he going to win? Where is he going to place? Don't forget to watch one of those 2 boobs, of course, cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team. And if you got no money, get the free diet and training program. It's free. It's up to 50 pages in length. And so until next time, I am out.